Live from downtown Vancouver at the Vancouver Film School campus, it's time for EP Live. Hey, welcome to EPN. My name is Victor Lucas, and we bring you the latest in everything cool every single day, and we've got an amazing show for you today. We've got two guests on the episode. We've got our old friend Geoff Keighley, who is in town for the TED event that takes place every year in Vancouver, which is pretty rad. And we've also got Eric Jacobus, who is an athlete and a martial artist and an actor, and he is physically embodying incredible characters like Kratos, and we're going to talk to him all about that. We've got a rundown to get to first, and we're going to dedicate this one to Bill Longpre, who is a longtime fan all the way back to the Tommy Tallarico days. Thank you so much, Bill. We got you this rundown. All right, we finally know when to expect and what to expect from the PlayStation 5. We don't know exactly when to expect the PlayStation 5. In an exclusive interview published this morning from Wired, Sony dropped the first official details on the PS5. Although they haven't shown off what the new system will look like, we do know that it will have a solid-state hard drive for faster load times, a next-gen GPU that supports ray tracing, and it will be fully backwards compatible with existing PlayStation 4 games. No word if the backwards compatibility will extend further to the PlayStation 1, 2, and 3. They've also confirmed that the system will support physical media and downloads, so it won't be download only as some had assumed. Another assumption that has turned out to be wrong is the release window. The PlayStation 5 won't be out this year, so we'll likely be getting it sometime in 2020. And in that interview, Mark Cerny was talking about the PlayStation 5 as the next-gen console. He wasn't naming it as the PS5, so they haven't really confirmed that that's what it's called. I think it's good that Sony has kind of come out ahead of this and said that it's not coming out this year, because we do know that Sony's not going to be at E3 this year. I'll talk to Geoff a little bit about that because it's so weird. But they are going to be putting on a big PlayStation, whatever it's called. Let's assume PlayStation 5, okay? Can we all collectively agree that it's probably going to be called the PlayStation 5? They're going to have a big event to talk about all that stuff, so it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to show off, and I think it's good that they're saying that it's not coming out until next year, because that's what the speculation has all been about. Ray tracing is huge. Obviously, NVIDIA got ahead of the curve there and started showing off what ray tracing means for video games, and the fact that it's going to be a part of a console is a really significant deal. I think it's incumbent, though, because they've had this sort of mid-level switcheroo with the PlayStation 4 Plus, that they really show off that this next generation of hardware is, in fact, a brand new sort of, console, a totally different type of console experience. It has to feel like we are upgrading to something completely fresh. And it also is important that they have backwards compatibility. I think Microsoft sort of lost the horse race and didn't come in first place in this generation with the software that they offered, and I think PlayStation was ahead on pricing and a little bit more sort of user flexibility. But one of the things that they did win back a lot of favor for is their efforts with backwards compatibility. So Sony has to meet Xbox somewhere in the middle there and say, look, you can play a lot of our classic PlayStation games on the PlayStation 5. And it would be great if, Ultra HD Blu-rays played on there. They might just skip that entirely, but it would be pretty cool if finally you could play, a mechanism that they helped to create, the 4K Blu-ray, on a PlayStation machine. It would just be awesome if you could do that. But we'll see. Very excited about this, and of course VR is going to be a big part of it too. Mark Cerny did mention, they didn't give us any details, but VR is going to be a big deal. Are you guys excited for the PlayStation 5? I feel like this is probably going to be it's going to be the last of their dedicated consoles, and then from there on, it will be the PlayStation. You're the PlayStation Network or the environment. You'll be able to access their content through some kind of service that they have. But the PlayStation 5, if it ends up being the last console that they make, it's a pretty nice round number to end on, don't you think? I know that sounds pretty glum. It's not even here, and we're already saying it's the end of their console. But yeah, I am psyched. I want to hear from you guys. If you are psyched, let's talk about it in Let's Play and Chat, and we'll definitely be reading the comments below. The big screen Minecraft movie is still alive and well. It just needs more time to be crafted. Warner Brothers and game maker Mojang have announced that the long-in-development film adaptation will hit theaters on March 4th, 2022. It's already been in development for many years and has gone through several different directors, but the studio decided to start from scratch with a new team of filmmakers earlier this year. Hopefully everything proceeds smoothly from here on out. The film is expected to focus on a new group of blocky characters who, like in the game, will take on a deadly dragon to save the Minecraft overworld. We also know that the film will be live action, so it's unclear how the visual style of the game will translate to real-life actors. I think it's fantastic that huge corporations are saying, nope, it's not up to snuff. Let's scrub all of that work and let's start again. We saw that happen with Metroid and Nintendo earlier this year. Presumably, a lot of work had already gone into this and a lot of money had been spent. So the fact that they just said, no, it's not good enough. I guess what they're trying to do, because I think they're working with Phil Lord and Chris Miller behind the scenes, and these guys have been on fire recently. They want it to be as, oh, they're not? They stepped off of that? Okay, Blake's saying, okay, no, he's giving me the signal. They aren't working on that. Well, if they're not working with those guys, they're certainly looking at those guys and saying, we want some of that, because those guys are killing it. And so if they knew they were on a trajectory with this Minecraft movie that wasn't going to meet expectations, they had to kind of shift course and move in a different direction. It's so far away, though. I think we're still in 2019, right? We're not in 2011 today? No, we're still in 2019. So we have a long way to go before we get into 2022 and thinking about what this Minecraft movie is going to look like. I'm curious. Definitely, it feels like, the move towards putting more effort and love and commitment into video game movies is becoming a real thing. So, let's keep our fingers crossed. Yesterday, we're talking about the Tomb Raider thing. We all know the Sonic movie is going to crush it this year, right? No, but Detective Pikachu looks pretty good, so maybe this Minecraft movie is going to be fun. I'll talk with Geoff about that, too, because I'm sure he's got some Hollywood pals that are making movies based on video games. All right, you'll be able to avenge the Fallen on the Switch this summer. Nintendo has announced that the Switch-exclusive Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 will land July 19th. I can't wait for this. Like the original games, players will be able to assemble a team of their favorite Marvel heroes and then take on villains like Thanos. And judging by the trailer, there will be a stronger emphasis on characters like Captain Marvel and the Guardians, who have more mainstream popularity now thanks to their movies. Original publisher Activision isn't involved in the new game, with development instead being handled by Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive studio Team Ninja. What I've seen so far visually, it isn't knocking my socks off, but these are incredible characters. We might be talking about some Spider-Man a little bit later on in the show, actually. I want a lot more Marvel video game action, we are inundated with all of these incredible live action movies and TV shows and news every day about how Marvel is taking over our literal universe, and the absence of great Marvel video games is very, very evident and felt. And the fact that Nintendo swooped in and said, look, we can have more with this franchise and made it an exclusive on the Switch is not only smart, it's incredibly exciting for Marvel fanatics like myself, and it's also capitalizing on all of that incredible, marketing that all of these movies are just sort of handing over. You want to play the Avengers type of experience this summer? Well, the console that's going to best serve that up is likely going to be the Nintendo Switch. Shocked everybody, and I'm psyched for this. I hope it lives up to the previous two games, because those still live high in my estimation. Love those games. All right, you guys, stick around because we've got Geoff Keighley coming up. But first, we have to take a look at this day in everything cool. Welcome to This Day at Everything Cool for April 16th. You can't always get what you want, but on April 16th, 1964, rock and roll lovers got loads of satisfaction. A young British rock band called the Rolling Stones released their self-titled debut album in the UK, with the same record being released in the US a few months later. The record didn't have any memorable songs. It instead was made up mostly of covers of songs from other artists like Chuck Berry and Jimmy Reed, but the album demonstrated the musical chops of the Stones, particularly lead singer Mick Jagger and guitarist Keith Richards. The album reached the top of the charts in the UK, and the Rolling Stones released their second and third albums the following year. The Rolling Stones are now recognized as one of the most influential and popular bands of all time and are still touring to this day. On April 16, 1977, computer history was made. Twice. The fledgling computer company Apple unveiled their second machine, the Apple II, at the first annual West Coast Computer Fair in San Francisco. And on the same day, at the same event, the older computer company Commodore International unveiled their Commodore PET 2001 personal computer. Both machines revolutionized the industry, offering a CPU, all the circuit boards, and keyboard inside the same unit, effectively making them the first complete personal computers in the modern sense of the word. The Apple II was a smash success, putting Apple on the map, and the Commodore PET was also a hit, particularly in the education market where it was a popular item in schools. The Commodore PET also served as the basis for the Commodore 64, which became one of the most popular computers in the world when it was released a few years later, thanks largely to its ability to play video games. Speaking of video games, on April 16, 2013, some of the world's biggest superheroes went head-to-head. The fighting game Injustice: Gods Among Us was released on the PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii U, featuring characters from DC Comics and made by Mortal Kombat developer NetherRealm Studios. Injustice built off the success of the 2008 crossover fighting game Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe, but featured a DC-specific story and tight gameplay that satisfied both DC aficionados and fighting game enthusiasts. It was a huge hit and was ported over to the next-gen systems when they hit stores later that same year. A sequel, Injustice 2, followed in 2017 and was EP's Fighting Game of the Year. How fitting that we just took a look at something crafted by the NetherRealm team on the show right there, because a little bit later on today, we're going to have Eric Jacobus talking to us about Mortal Kombat 11. But right now, it is time to welcome to the stage my old friend, and anybody that's been watching Electric Playground for many years, your old friend as well. You know him as the creator of the Game Awards. He has been involved in video game media for longer than me, which is weird. It's weird. Please welcome Geoff Keighley.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. How are you
doing, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, this is EP Live. Here we go.
EP Live. This is the new way that we make EP. It's the only way we haven't made EP, except for this year. We cranked everything up to 11.
I was gonna say you never did live before, right?
Well, we did. We started live last year, and we had a small studio, which is where we made.
But in the first like 20+ years, no live, right?
Well, we did it like a Vic's Basement
That's
podcasting
right.
thing.
You would do the streaming and stuff like that.
So we took a lot of the lessons that we did from TV and a lot of the lessons from some of the streaming, and we kind of converged it. And I wish that we had done this a long time ago. Yeah. Because it's really fun. It's
well, it's great because you got the community and chat right there live and everything, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah, it's really cool. And to have people come to a physical space, and the school has actually been an amazing partner.
Beautiful here. Yeah, it's great. I've never been here, but it's awesome.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah.
You're in town for TED.
I'm here for TED this week. Yeah. So just happened to be in town, and yeah, I'm doing well. It's we're just kind of like ramping up for the year. We've got a lot of stuff happening in summer and fall, and obviously Game Awards. So yeah, the first couple months of the year are just kind of getting things ready, and now I'm going into we're like 2 months to E3. So
I know,
it's getting busy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
This is your time to shine right here. Putting all the
it's exciting because the industry is more year round now, right? So there's always stuff happening, and yeah, speak closer to the mic. All right, let people. I haven't done this before. I'm sorry.
These mics are very directional.
Yeah, so look, I'm so honored to be in the video game industry like you. Really did my first on-camera stuff with you back in probably like maybe 2000, 2001 or something like that.
Yep.
On EP, and yeah, it's been fun. Like, I mean, honestly, most of my life now is behind the scenes, kind of working on E3, Game Awards. We announced today we're doing a big thing at Gamescom, so yeah, I miss doing more on-camera stuff. So
well, you're hosting the awards, which is pretty damn cool. You're like the ringleader for all of this talent that comes
for
through.
Sure. But I miss sort of I used to have a weekly show on television. I used to do a lot of online stuff, and now it's like I'm honestly so busy building those shows. It's like the Game Awards really takes all year to build. So yes, I still do host that at the end of the year, but it's a long build up. And I think people always ask me how long does it take to make that show, and it's like most of the year. I'm traveling around the world, meeting developers, talking to people about stuff. So it's a different different beasts than doing the weekly shows, but it's a ton of fun. I'm honored to do it.
Well, and I'm honored to be able to have you here.
Of course,
and to catch up with you too, because it's been too long. And I did read that. I think it was a gaming variety article about you working all year on these productions. Yeah. And I would imagine that a big part of your work is like cutting things out, because I would imagine a lot of people want to be on the awards and reveal their games, or even on the YouTube shows that you put together, but you can't do everything.
Yeah,
so how do you tell people, no, you can't be on my show?
Well, it's look, it's always a conversation, right? And I think one of the things I really am proud of with the Game Awards and the other shows is that we work with the biggest games in the world, right? We'll have Hideo Kojima on stage, we'll Rockstar on stage, but then we love the smaller indie games that we like to show off. We had a game last year called Among Trees that like one guy in Sweden was building by himself. So honestly, we look at a lot of stuff, and I'm honored that people bring us stuff. So people always ask me and say, hey, how can we get on the show? And I'm like, well, actually, what you can do is just send us an email, like share with us share with us, your game and what you're working on, because I love the idea of finding the smallest game out there that we can find a gem. And yes, but there are a lot of things we get pitched that just don't fit. And sometimes it's not even just because this game doesn't look good. It's like we may have too many of that style of game, right? So I'm very conscious of kind of curating it in a way that we kind of hit all the right buckets, right? So we don't have too many superhero games. We have something for Xbox fans, something for PlayStation fans, something for Nintendo fans. So that's really a lot of what I do all year is kind of shaping the show and trying to represent, I think, the best of our industry inside of it. So it takes a lot of work, and sometimes it's never personal. But we like to look at everything. I mean, it's what you learned from EP and from game trailers, right? You would try to cover everybody through the course of a year, but now it's just all put together in 3 hours. And the stakes are very high because we've had amazing announcements every year. Like even last year's show was so incredible, it's going to be hard to top it. So that's the thing that we face is I don't make the games. I only can bring them to you. So when people don't get a game they want or dream about being announced at the show, I'm like, sorry, that game doesn't exist. So we're at the mercy of game developers, but I think it's going to be a great year. I think me, I think your first taste of actually even before that, I was going to say G4ia was your first taste of. No, the first award show I worked did something on before that. Producer in Toronto actually, a guy named Peter Heyman worked on the first ever that I know of televised video game award show called Cybermania '94. Crazy. You can actually watch it on YouTube. It is Leslie Nielsen from The Naked Gun, another Canadian, and Jonathan Taylor Thomas hosting it from Universal Studios in 1994. And I got to write the narration for the nomination packages that William Shatner read. Oh, wow. So that was like the nominees that year were like Doom from id Software, Myst, Mortal Kombat, games like that. They were nominated at that show. So I worked on that when I was literally a kid. I was like 13 years old. I don't know if everybody knows this, but you were like 17 sneaking into E3. When did you start? Like 15, 16? The first article I wrote about games was when I was 13. I previewed Sim Farm by Will Wright in I think 1992, and then I went to the first E3 in 1995 when I think I was 15. It was 18 and above. So the first 2 or 3 years of E3, I had to have a special letter. That's amazing. I've been to literally every E3, which is like an insane badge of honor. That I was so lucky to be growing up. At a time when you and I got to go to E3. And it inspired me, man. When I was walking around, same thing for you. It's like makes you want to stay in this business. And when I'm an impressionable 15-year-old kid in high school thinking about what's my career going to be. It's like the opportunity to go to that, even going to Cybermania '94, going with my dad and like having this experience, it inspired me to want to get into games. And I always think about that when, put together something like Game Awards. It's like, who are the kids who are watching or who are in the audience 100%. Who say, hey, I want to make games. I want to be up on that stage one day winning one of those awards. And sometimes it takes things like that to get people excited. That's why I have the conversations that I do too. It's so important to sort of like think about how to pass on this information. And yes, E3 was incredibly validating because I spent money to go to E3 to kind of put into the production of and you were lugging around huge cameras and it was like the old days we had to have like all these printed press kits. At the end of the day, I remember my bag would be so heavy because I had all these like slides and CD-ROMs and press kits. So I'd go home with my shoulder would hurt for days because I had all this paper I was lugging from like EA's stack of press releases. So it was we'd go down with like
boxes of beta tapes and then come back.
That's
with,
right. You had the tapes too.
Yeah,
it
was like Santa bags filled with tapes that the companies were giving us and that we were shooting. But and E3 definitely did inspire us, and I feel. I want to transition to E3 because it's a big one this year with no Sony, and now we've got Google in this mix. But how does it feel to have been a part of all of these different award shows and to compromise, I think, along the way, right? To see the business sort of compromise itself a little bit and to get that heat and then to finally get some validation to put out your own stuff out there and to kind of take the reins completely on the Game Awards.
Sure. I mean, I think what happened over all those years was a learning experience, right? And I think a lot of people, you know, when I used to do G4ia or when I was doing the Spike VGAs, folks would always say to me, it's like, oh, how are you involved with that? It's like, it's not great. And I'm like, no, it's not great. But like, I think, you know, if I can sort of change from within the system, it's in some ways more powerful than just doing nothing. So I learned a lot. Like I learned how to make a big scale awards show working for all those years at Viacom. And no, it wasn't perfect, but they were investing. I was learning, and you know, in many ways, was the training grounds, the proving grounds to be able to eventually go off on my own. So now, you know, when I finally have the opportunity to go off on my own, I use kind of all that knowledge, and then finally kind of put my own name on something and said, hey, this is what it should be. So far, I think the audience, you know, is responding to that. But yeah, I like, it was always tough for me, but I think, and you said the same thing, it's like, you know, video game television. It's like a lot of people sort of, you know, even G4, there are people that sort of would pretend they knew kind of what this audience would want. And it's like, you know, ends up, it's just growing pains. And now it's lucky, you know, I'm honored to be in the position where we sort of don't have any gatekeepers. We can just kind of make the content we want. Same thing with you. It's like you can do this here. There's no network executive telling you book this person.
Well, I've always had autonomy, and I think the beautiful thing of being based out of Vancouver and being a small sort of you know scrappy production outfit is like people just trusted me.
When you were always great, because I feel like in Canada you always had your base of Canada, so the stuff in the U.S. was always like kind of, you know, cherry on top. Was nice to have, but you never needed it, and that was what was so great.
Well,
with G4,
we never had it all firing at the exact same time either. Like we would get a lot of U.S. distribution and not have the Canadian stuff go for a bit, or the web would be working, but
it's amazing that I said through all these changes, you know, you've stayed true to this, and same thing with me. It's like, oh, there's like one of my early.
Miss those days, man.
No, those
were
fun.
That was one of
fun.
My most enjoyable days. We're looking at the Star Wars Battlefront.
That was a good, probably, what was that? Probably early 2000s or something, like probably 15, 18 years ago, or was it, or mid 2000s?
The first Battlefront, and we had to convince LucasArts to go off, let us shoot with stormtroopers in the woods, and I got major thank yous, and I know that they showed this to George Lucas, and you know, people loved it, and I'm still in touch with Chris Susan, who's an awesome dude.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's been like, look, it's an amazing industry, and you know, you and I are still in, but a lot of people making games today are people that we've known for, you know,
nobody leaves.
Plus. Exactly. Yeah.
A lot of them shift and do a lot of different things. You know, you and I have been pretty lucky, and Jeff Gertzman to kind of continue on a path that we set out for ourselves, but nobody leaves. We just kind of shift around.
No, and I love like all these developers. They're such great people, and that's why it's so nice to be able to honor them on a big show like the awards.
100%. Let's talk about E3 though, because Sony isn't going to be at this E3, and I think for you, just as it was for me, the first E3 that the PlayStation launched at in 1995. Was a seminal moment. It was like, oh my God, of course this is the career to be in. Look at this party, you know?
Yeah, that was an amazing party on the Sony lot with Michael Jackson there, and it was an insane.
It was incredible.
Insane event. Yeah, no, it's sad that PlayStation isn't there at E3, but you know, I think the industry's changing. You know, we'll see what happens moving forward. I think E3, it's great that the whole industry is together. You know, it's very important for me at the Game Awards to have everyone together. I think that's why that moment with Phil Spencer, Reggie Fils-Aimé, and Sean Layden on stage to open the show was really important to me, and I kind of knew what was happening with E3. We had heard by then, so I was like, can we unify everyone, bring them together? All the more reason for that. So, yeah, I think this is, you know, obviously kind of a transitional year. Sony today even was, you know, teasing some of the details around the next PlayStation. So it's always, you know, those transition years are always kind of awkward because it's like, you know, do they have hardware to show? Do they have games to show? You know, Sony has so many games announced even now that, like, you know, are still not out, right? So it's like Last of Us 2, Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, big games. So yeah, I think, you know, I hope it's not the case every year it's going to be like this,
Yeah.
but it's going to be, you know, an interesting, unique year. But I will say there's such a shift, I think, in, you know, trade shows and what I found with Game Awards, like so much is moving to kind of digital media, right? We've seen Nintendo Directs, Sony's got State of Play now, there's Inside Xbox, there's all these different ways to kind of communicate with fans. So
For sure.
one of the things we're thinking about a lot with Game Awards is how do we expand sort of the audience, right? And E3 is great for, you know, 50,000 people in LA, but I know from the YouTube show, it's like there are millions of people around the world that want to sort of experience it. So yeah, I think, you know,
they won't though if there isn't that thing to coalesce. If they don't feel like there's a party going on that they're getting a ticket to. Yeah. And I think that's why it's incumbent on the games industry to keep that party happening. And make it a festival, less than a retail showcase, because those days are done.
Oh, for sure. That's why I think it's got to move more towards, you know, very consumer focused event. And look, I mean, there's, you know, Blizzard does BlizzCon and people do individual things, but what I love about E3 is that everyone comes together, right? And that's sort of, you know, that's what's great about Game Awards. So yes, I think it's, look,
Is this something that the ESA has to fix? Because of the expense of the LA Convention Center and the way that they set up the business there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that E3 is in a transition because it was a trade show, and even now it's sort of, you know, kind of half a consumer show and half a retail show, and they've added consumers to it. But yeah, there are a lot of challenges. And look, anything as big as that, it's just so hard to transition, right? And one of the best things I think that happened with Game Awards is that I just started from scratch, right? I said, hey, we're not going to keep doing the VGAs or VGX. We're going to start something entirely new that is kind of born of the digital age and the internet. And I think something as big as E3, it's really hard. And I saw that with VGAs. There's so much momentum. It's like you have to book out the convention center years in advance. And it's like when one show's over, it's already like, are we coming back next year or not? And it's like, it's so hard.
And you're paying for that room, even if you don't have all the time.
I mean, that's like, and people ask me about Game Awards. Like, we have to book the venue at least a year in advance to get the dates we need and stuff. So E3, it's like they have to book years and years in advance. So it's a really hard thing to do. But look, I think it's going to be interesting this year with no PlayStation for sure. And you know, it's sad in a way, but I also really I understand their decision. I think given sort of the circumstances, and you know, we'll see. E3 is. I think there are going to be a lot of great games there at E3.
Well, and it's exciting that Phil and Jade are running this whole Google thing, which may shake up the business in some really significant ways.
I don't know.
Too.
I mean, I don't know what their plans are for E3 there. I don't think they've announced that they're going to be there or what they're doing. But yeah, early days for, I think, Stadia, but certainly exciting that there are new players coming in, right? And that's the thing, is like with all this streaming, you know, PC continues to rise, mobile, it's getting even more interesting. So yeah, I mean, games, it's never boring, right?
No.
That's why you and I have stayed in this business, because
100%.
Every year there's something new happening.
You don't know what it's going to be when you wake up.
Yeah, and it's not like, you know, there's no PlayStation at E3 and the industry is on this glide path to history. If anything, gaming is bigger than ever before. It's just sort of changing. And I think you know, I always am super conscious of changing with the industry and not sort of resisting that change.
How do you find time to play? Because, you know, I am very acutely aware that I've made a lifestyle for myself as a reviewer that I have to play. But playing requires a lot of time.
Look, I used to play a lot more when I was reviewing, right? And now it's like I can kind of sample everything. And, you know, for the big games, you know, like a God of War or Red Dead, those I you know, pride myself on sort of playing all the way through and checking those out because they could be nominees and whatnot. But yeah, no, I don't get to play nearly as much as I want to because I've, you know, kind of been building the business of the Game Awards, which has been, you know, it would be more fun to be able to sit there and like jump into Fortnite creative mode and just like make stuff and things like that. I just
you can't on the other side of it unless that's you're streaming that game and that's
no, and that's because I've never got you know, live streaming gameplay and all that stuff. It's just not what I've done, and you know, streaming on Twitch or YouTube. It's like I kind of
you have a different job.
Well, I do, and it's really, you know, it's building up all year for these big events, right? So that's why like people don't see me for months, and it's like because I'm working on this stuff, kind of building and getting ready.
Do you miss reviewing? Because we reviewed on the show.
No, I mean, I did a. You know, look, I miss reviewing. I miss sort of the investigative journalism stuff I would do with the Final Hours stories. I miss doing, you know, live interviews with executives and things like
doing
that.
Star Wars Battlefront.
That stuff was a ton of fun, and I just think it's like it's all kind of evolved.
I miss directing those.
Yeah, those. And the effects you guys were doing back in the day. I mean, this is stuff that again any kid can do now on a computer, but like when you're talking 15 years ago, it's like the insanity what you guys put together with
Yeah, that's Tavis Dunn. Shout out to Tavis, who did all of this work, by the way.
Tavis is incredible. For years has just been one man shop.
And now he's working for the news. He's doing great work for the news, for national news. But
no, but this is
we miss him in this kind of
world class stuff.
Yeah,
and it's really like it just evolved, and I think yes, I do miss reviewing games, but I think I'm sort of best served doing what I'm doing now. I'm honored to be in sort of this unique position to pull this stuff together. Yes. So I miss that, but there are lots of great reviewers out there. There are lots of young people coming into the space, streaming games all day.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of uniquely equipped to do what I'm doing. So I kind of focus on, what I think is the best use of my time.
Well, and honestly, you've had a lot of great successes based on things that were changing and ending, and like you took some doors closing and opened new doors, and all of those lessons, and created your own industry, your own business, or your own angle
and that was
on
just natural, right? And it wasn't any big master plan to sort of take this or that. It's like the TV stuff like with VGAs and G4 and all that, I was just kind of watching, right? And even when I was a kid in like high school and college, I was, working for EP, writing articles, but it wasn't really my career. And then when I sort of graduated, it's like, oh, wow, I think I can, G4 was just starting. I'm like, oh, maybe there's something here. So it's been a pretty natural progression of going from like print to television and then to online and then now to streaming. And that's what I said, like, I think I'm always thinking about kind of what's next and where the industry is going and trying to adapt to that. So
awesome.
Got to figure out the next thing.
And I know you will. We've got a couple of questions in here. I saw Sam I Am 111 always with a good question. With so many legendary studios that have fallen, have you ever considered a VGA Hall of Fame for classic dev studios and celebrating their works? That's a great idea.
Yeah, so we've done a little bit of that with the Industry Icon Award that we gave to Sierra Online the first year with Ken and Roberta Williams, and the second year was Westwood Studios.
Yes.
Brett Sperry and Lewis Castle. So that's
and then you had the River Raid.
Yeah, Carol Shop.
That was amazing.
Yeah,
that was my favorite thing that you did.
What a moment, right?
Incredible. Because I loved that game.
I know.
And so did you, I'm sure.
And so many people are like, I had no idea.
Yes.
This is the lady who made it.
It was just great to celebrate that game and then to dive into that person.
Oh, yeah. The after party was amazing because everyone came up. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe you are the person that made that. So so that's really how we try and recognize some classic franchises.
That's awesome. Let's see if I've got any more. Geoff, what game are you expecting to see at E3 that you would be the best of the show? That's from Audrey on Leon.
It's a great question. This year's going to be interesting because we won't, I think, have any PlayStation games there, which are typically, big nominees. Gears 5, which is made here in Vancouver.
Yep.
We expect that from Xbox.
I think that's going to be
that'll be a big one.
Yep.
Not really sure what Nintendo's going to have. Jedi Fallen Order from EA, even though EA is not at E3. Maybe that'll be around. I just saw that Star Wars Celebration in Chicago this weekend, which looks cool.
Yeah.
Great story-driven game.
Love those guys.
There's other stuff. Borderlands 3 will be there. It's early. It's hard to say. I don't know if there's necessarily one front runner, but I think there'll be a lot of good games at E3.
Another one from Sam I Am. What are some of your favorite behind-the-scenes moments from the Video Game Awards?
Wow. There's so many moments, right? And it's, it's always been great to work with Mr. Kojima and some of the crazy antics that we've done over the years. I remember like the, famous, Phantom Pain when he did that, and people didn't know it was Metal Gear, but it sort of was, and he was teasing that, and that was really kind of fun to just see the internet kind of discover that.
Yep.
When he revealed that game. So that was probably fun. And it's it's every year there's something new that happens, and I always say those shows, you want something unique to happen, you just don't know what's going to happen. And certainly there's like the the Oscars Joseph Fares moment that people remember.
That was amazing. Yeah.
And that's just stuff that just happens. So last year, like the God of War Read It Boy moment, like that just kind of like went viral, and we had no idea that was going to be a big moment in the show. So that's part of the fun of these things, is that you have a 2 or 3 hour block of time. You hope some great things will happen. You can never predict what's going to trend, but usually it's been a good thing versus a bad thing.
That's awesome.
Thankfully.
I am so impressed by your continued growth as a creator in this space and what you are doing with the opportunities that you have. you make me proud every day, and I'm very grateful that we've been able to, be friends for so long and do cool things together.
Thank you, man.
I hope you will come back often to this.
I'd love to. Yeah. No. Yeah. I spend most of my year traveling around visiting studios, and definitely some great studios up here in Vancouver. So yeah, I'd love to come back. I think what you've done for games in this industry is incredible, and you've been very devoted and pure in your love of games, and I think that's really honorable that you've always kind of made the show you want to make, as you said, kind of on your terms. And I think that's really important in this world, because you said the industry is changing, but at the end of the day, it's still the same. A lot of the same people making games, and thankfully a lot of the same people talking about games online.
And they love it as much as us too, right? They're all caretakers, and they're trying to figure out how to do this business in different ways. And
that's what matters more to me than the viewership or anything around Game Awards. Is that the developers really value it, and when I meet fans, they appreciate that there's something like the Game Awards that I think pays the proper respect to this industry, because you and I lived through many years of people sort of not really getting games. Still to this day,
I know. Well, I mean, both you and I commiserate all the time that there is not, like EP vanished and game trailers vanished from television, and they're like still you can click around all over.
No, and again,
it's ridiculous.
But the thing is now TV's dead, right? It's over, and it's just sort of like that's what I'm excited.
Only by their own decision to let it die, as opposed to saying.
Well, I guess it's just changing. Like when we first did Game Awards, everyone's like, I can't believe it's not on TV. And it's like, well, most people were calling it up on Twitch on their 65-inch television, watching at home. And like now we're live in 4K on YouTube. It's better than cable. So, I think, gaming, but still at the end of the day, the attention around gaming is still not as great as it should be. And it's not sort of representative of how big it is in the entertainment spectrum. And, you look at the excitement around movies still, and it's like games still don't quite have that amount of mainstream acceptance.
100%.
And that's really a lot of my work in my life has really been devoted to kind of elevating this medium and its creators and celebrating it in a grand style. And Game Awards is supposed to be this kind of interesting, kind of blurring of all the entertainment mediums, and having film directors and actors and musicians and game creators all together to create something that I hope really shows the world that games are the most powerful form of entertainment in the world. My goal now is to get the Game Awards to a spot where it is, the biggest awards show in the world. And I think we're kind of, we're getting to that point.
So you're going to get there,
it's
for
like,
sure.
And it's all of us together, right? Because games continue to grow. And that's what's most exciting to me, is that we are on a trajectory now to keep growing this thing, and backed by the fans and the game developers and publishers. I hope within my lifetime, people will, think of the gaming industry and the awards as part of that, as big or bigger than something like the Oscars. And I think it's actually possible, which is really exciting, because there were a lot of years where I didn't think we were going to get there.
Yeah, I know. And it's because we've sort of put all of that investment in traditional media to kind of figure it out. But truthfully, anybody that's played a game knows how powerful an entertainment source it can be, and it eclipses all the other.
And like Fortnite last year, what that did to sort of open the aperture to what games can be, and I get really excited. So whenever I have a down day, or I get frustrated about building that show and the stress that comes with kind of owning it and financing it and producing it, I get really excited though about the opportunities.
That image of having Reggie and Sean and Phil on stage, that is the future of games. We need to take that as the beginning of where we're going with this media.
Thank you.
This territorial pissing match that's happened in games forever has got to go away.
Yeah,
and it needs to be inclusive.
I think that's was really important to me to get that done, and it took many months to pull that together. But again, I think everyone does believe that in their heart of hearts, that we're all in this together, and we're going to kind of together grow this business and make it bigger and better than ever. So we're going to keep doing that.
You rock, Jeff.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Nick, great to see you.
Yeah. Have a good time in Vancouver.
Thank you.
And let me know when you're back.
EP Live. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Good to see you guys.
All right, let's take a look back in time with this buried treasure.
My name is Blair Farrell, and I've been given an opportunity to present a buried treasure today, and for my pick, I'm going to do Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, but not the game everyone's thinking of. I'm going to do the companion game on the Nintendo DS from developer Kryptonite, who first did Spider-Man Web of Shadows on the DS. Now, the console game Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions was known for its story, which spanned across 4 dimensions, which eventually led into the Spider-Verse comic book, which led into last year's Oscar-winning movie. In the Nintendo DS game, you don't play as 4, you play as 3. The Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man Noir in 2099. Now, how the map works is you have 3 maps divided into each of the areas, and they make up one larger map, so you can explore through each map as a character, and then as you get more abilities, you can open up the map just like in a Metroid game. You have portal rooms where one Spider-Man will pass his ability onto the other. For example, Spider-Man 2099 initially can't web swing, he can only glide, but once he gets that ability from somewhere else, he can access new areas of the map and get new power-ups just like in the Metroid game. This game has a story that's like the console game about Mysterio stealing an artifact called the Tablet of the Order and Chaos and it breaking up and causing a rift in all the dimensions. It's completely unique to the DS game, so if you play the console game to death, you would get a completely new experience with the same actors from the console game and completely different villains like Electro, who's the regular version here and not the ultimate version, and Boomerang Noir and Vulture 2099, and even Silvermane in 2099, who's the same one from the Amazing Universe. He's just survived in his robot body. If you love Metroid games, or if you love Spider-Man, or even if you don't like Spider-Man and just like Metroid games, this is a game you need to pick up. You can play it on the original DS, any version, plus the 3DS, and Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions on Nintendo DS is definitely a buried treasure.
Nice work, Blair Farrell. Woo! That is incredible. Good job. Good job, my friend. That is fantastic. I was watching the segment there. We have got an incredible guest. The show is just getting started. We have somebody that has worked on massive titles like last year's Game of the Year winning God of War. It won so many accolades. Also worked on Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, working on Mortal Kombat, or probably wrapped up on Mortal Kombat because it's going to be here, Mortal Kombat 11, very soon. Please welcome to the stage, Erik Jacobus. Yes. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Yeah. Look at that epic beard. Holy mackerel.
Thanks.
Are you trying to beat Kratos?
No. I just every time I think about shaving, I just say no.
I want to grow one of those, man.
Yeah, you can. Just say no.
Just say no. Just do it.
That's it.
Oh man, it's awesome. Yeah. So you are a stunt performer and an actor, and you wear the performance capture suits.
That's right. Yeah.
How did you get into that line of work?
You know, I had started out just doing regular old stunts for movies, more of the combat side and falls and things like that. Yeah. And then I did this series called Tekken in Real Life.
Okay.
Where I took Tekken characters and I took their move lists and I would just copy their moves in the garage. It was
on
just
YouTube, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I saw some of those. It was amazing.
Thank you. It was just a way to stay in shape.
Yeah.
And it was kind of this fun thing with, you know, these Tekken characters. People motion captured these Tekken characters, right?
Yeah.
So I said, okay.
So it was possible.
Yeah, it was definitely possible. So I just reverse engineered them and put them back into real life. And I really just did it for fun and to get some YouTube views, which I did. I got.
Did you do it with your friends or did you just do it by yourself?
I was all alone in a garage with a GoPro for a year doing this. And, you know, it goes viral and it trends on Facebook. And I was like, this is cool. My wife's asking me, you know, when are you going to start getting some real work here? It's been about 8 months since your last job. And I went, yeah, I don't know. And that's when Bruno Velasquez from God of War, the animator on God of War, he emailed me and he said, hey, you know how to move like a video game character.
Wow.
And I said, wait a minute. What are you talking about? And I realized that that's what I had sort of been training myself to do with these Tekken in Real Life videos. So that job was a real blessing. So thank God. And,
Thank you, Bruno.
Yeah,
so clearly you're a gamer then. You had already started with a love and a fascination for the medium?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. And so was that your first job, was to be in, was it God of War 3? Which God of War did you work on?
It was the latest God of War.
The most recent one.
The most recent one. Before that I did Mafia 3 for 2K because they were actually I was in that same area. I was living in the Bay Area. That's where 2K is based.
Yes, yes.
California.
Okay.
And they wanted some local stunt guys. And for a long time, my crew, the stunt people, we were doing short films, and a bunch of us would go and work on these 2K games. And I came in kind of later and did a bunch of stuff for Mafia 3.
Fantastic.
I played old women falling on the ground, and when you punch a kid, I'd play that guy. And I was a punching bag for a year on that game.
That's awesome. And I know that it's a real art to work with performance capture technicians and engineers and I guess the directors that work with this kind of technology. Do you have to kind of be up on that to be able to get them what they need?
It's a great question, because I think a lot of the times animators who are making video games, who direct mocap, they might not know how to ask for something out of a stuntman or mocap performer. And I actually had a tech background. My first job was as a PHP programmer and Visual Basic programmer.
No wonder they love you, man.
Well,
that's awesome.
I kind of tucked that away for a long time. I made websites and stuff, and that was that was how we self-promoted, is kind of having a handle on that stuff. So I was always tech-minded.
Yeah.
I remember watching Tech TV back in the day. I was around then.
Yeah.
And then when it came time to actually doing motion capture, the animators would talk to each other and they say, they'd be talking this kind of like code language about, well, when we call this function of the character, he's going to fall off the cliff. But if we call this function, and I said, like, well, why don't I just make my feet like this and I can put my body like that? And they said, wait, we can bypass all that talk and just give the direct like coding command to you. I said, yeah.
That's fantastic.
And so it became this exercise of programming with my body, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, because a lot of people, I think, don't comprehend that it's not just taking that data and just putting it into a video game. There's a lot of cleanup, and that work, the real work, is after it's all been recorded, right? And absolutely. I think a lot of actors get cast because they physically fit the role, but then they have messy mocap, and that's what you're trying to provide to these animators is the cleanest data.
The cleanest data that I can, and also just sometimes the animators, they only want the silhouette, right? So on the punch, they don't care about any of this stuff. They just want this. They just want the end, right? They just want this part, and they want you to really extend that. So on camera, when I'm doing live action films, it's really hard to punch like that and fully extend your body and make it look right.
Sure.
But in motion capture, as long as you hit that pose and your recovery's right and the anticipation leading up to it is right, they have all the pieces that they need.
Interesting. It almost looks like the old sort of martial arts movies from the 60s or like the early days. Before it was all refined and we've seen so many action scenes, but that feels like it's probably better for game
Yes,
capture.
And that was the Hong Kong sort of code of action, which is that when you punched, you stuck it. It was like so it creates a geometry when you're watching it, right?
And easier for the film editors in the day to cut with this physical media that they had to cut with, as opposed to all this non-linear stuff.
But also as a viewer, it's very easy for you to follow a fight if it's move, 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 move.
Right.
It's like stuff like that. They really capitalized off of that.
Sure.
That's why they would undercrank so they can move a little bit slower and hit those poses.
Of course.
So game design is a lot more like that.
Amazing. I'd never put that together. That's incredible.
And those are the films that I studied.
Of course.
To make my kind of like action language.
And dude, those are the films that these animators are all watching to get inspired to create. So they want to see that. So it's all
so many of those games were based on Chambara films and Hong Kong action films.
Wow.
And it's taking those poses, and it's really pose to pose animation is what they care about.
That's incredible.
As a performer, as long as you can hit the pose, you're 90% there, I think.
So clearly you have a strong fundamental martial arts background, and you've got people that have taught you these things and friends that are in this world. What do they think about your crazy job and career now as Kratos in video games?
A lot of them work in the business too, actually.
Okay.
Almost all of them do.
Yeah.
It's just so different because I really studied martial arts for live action,
right?
So that I could move like Jackie Chan. It was my huge inspiration for me. And
he's all over YouTube right now because he's something new. Well, Rush Hour 4 is going forward, and he's been talking about Bruce Lee as well. And so I was just watching Jackie Chan clips today. Genius, genius.
Yeah, and I really wanted to take kind of his movement style, and the comedy was a part of that too. But just really kind of the action model. I really wanted to learn that and learn how these guys moved the way that they did to kind of create whatever that was in Hong Kong films that it really set it apart from everything else in the world too. You think about it, it's a city of 6 million people making globally successful films competing against American martial art films. It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
There's something that they did right.
Yeah.
So I just studied that to no end.
So when did you start?
I started when I started watching Hong Kong movies.
No way.
Because again, I was a programmer at the time.
Yeah.
And I started actually going to Chinatown. Before I even really learned martial arts, I would go to Chinatown. I'd buy a stack of video CDs with my paycheck, and I'd review them. But I'd just review the fights.
Yeah.
And I started understanding how the fights were put together.
Yeah.
And after 2 years, I had 500 reviews up. And I had an audience kind of following me.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what if I could just go out and try and make one of these things? Because I kind of understand how they put them together.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know how to move.
Yeah.
So I learned martial arts at the same time.
So you learned? Did you go to dojos to learn stuff?
You know, I had gone to some when I was younger, but like the real training for this
was
began
through the
then.
visual.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you were mimicking things that you were watching on.
Yes.
In games and in front of the camera.
Exactly. And also learning, when I would learn a kick, I would take a Taekwondo class, right?
Yeah.
And they would teach me the kick. And then when I'd go and I'd try the kick on camera, the kick wouldn't look good from certain angles. So I'd have to change how I do the kick depending on where the camera.
Amazing.
Exactly. So the line has to be right.
Wow.
If you see the knees bent, it's not going to be right. Yet maybe you move the camera, maybe you change the kicks. So that really influenced my training, actually.
So now, because you've created this line of success for yourself in film and in games, are you now teaching cinematic combat to other people? Because it seems like it's a totally different sort of viewpoint and a philosophy that you would pass on to other people. Or do you not? You want all the gigs right now?
No, I put this. This is all open source in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I put it out there since the beginning how I got all these jobs and told everybody how to do everything. There's no secret.
Yeah.
I hope everybody does what I do.
Yeah.
It'll bring everybody up.
Right.
Really, the thing that I tend to bring now is not just a performance, but also an understanding of where camera goes.
Yeah.
An understanding of how the edit works.
Right.
Recently, I did a movie in Bollywood called Man Who Feels No Pain. I action directed that.
Yeah.
And they came to me because they had seen a short film we did called Rope-a-Dope.
Yeah.
And they said, we want to do Rope-a-Dope in Bollywood. I said, if you want to do Rope-a-Dope in Bollywood, that means your actors have to do all their own stunts. Your stuntmen have to act, right? And we're not going to use wires. We're not going to use fancy editing. It's going to be kind of shot like a Jackie Chan movie. And that is totally against the type of Bollywood.
Right.
And they totally went for it. And so I sold them on a package. I didn't sell me. I said, this is a package that we're selling. It's like a vision.
That's
and
awesome.
they totally went with it. They even used my edit on the fights. I mean,
so then
couldn't have gone better.
When you go onto a project like that, it's like you go to train the actors and you work with them for weeks before you go to camera? Is that
I didn't train the actors for that. The stuntman named Pratik trained the actors for that.
Yeah.
But we were watching them train too and kind of developing the action in the US and pre-visualizing all that with our team.
Wow.
And then two of us went over there, Dennis Rule and myself. We went over to India, auditioned like 100 stuntmen.
Yeah.
Taught them a new way of kind of moving because in Bollywood the action language is so different than everywhere in the world. And really what we wanted to do is I didn't want to make a Hong Kong movie in Bollywood. That's not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to do the raid in Bollywood. You know what I mean?
I was just going to ask you about the raid.
Yeah, which is like you're taking an industry that has this kind of legacy of how it does action, and their action's fun.
Yeah.
But we wanted to do something very grounded.
Yeah.
It's about a guy that feels no pain.
Yeah.
And we didn't want any wires. And every time somebody suggested, "Hey, why don't we do a wire backflip kick?" I said, "No, you'll lose everybody at that point."
Yeah.
We're doing a grounded movie. Trust me on this.
Yes.
And we stuck to our guns there.
Yeah, I want. What's Gavin Edwards or it's
Gareth?
Is it Gareth Edwards?
Gareth Evans.
Gareth Evans. Yes, I get him and Edwards who did Rogue One. Both incredible directors.
Yeah.
But yes, I want the raid director.
Gareth Evans.
Gareth Evans. Yes, I want him to make a super. I would love him to make a Batman movie. Yeah. That'd be incredible.
Yeah,
love those. So let's talk about Kratos and this new vision of God of War. As a gamer, I'm sure you played the previous God of War games. Yeah, and they're amazing games. But did you know what they were doing with this new God of War? Did you have a sense of it being this seminal, game of the year caliber game?
I'll tell you the story of how it happened, right?
Yeah.
So I was doing this Tekken in real life in my garage, and our savings is dwindling. We've got a son, and he's 6 months old. We're getting near the end of our financial rope, and I get that call, and I said, they didn't tell me what the game was really.
Yeah.
And so I went in, and I said, "What's the game about?" And he said, "You're playing a bearded man protecting your son."
Wow.
And I said, "That's I want this job more than anybody in the world right now.
Nice.
Give me the axe. I want this job." so bad.
That is amazing. So the gift the animated GIF that I used yesterday of Kratos yelling, was that you?
If that was a cinematic, that may have been me.
That's so cool. I mean, everybody uses that thing now.
Yeah.
You know,
sometimes it's hard to know because I mean, I came in a little bit late. I did the combat for him in game.
Yeah.
And then, but you know, you have an actor playing him during cinematic scenes too. And you have a voice for him.
Right. Yeah. It takes a village to build these characters.
Right. Yeah,
did you get was Cory Barlog in the room, and was he?
I never worked with him.
No.
I was only working with the animators.
Okay.
And they were focused on, you know, the in-game stuff, especially the animators, and also Dory, who did the cinematics.
Right.
Whenever there was an action scene, you know, I'd be there for that.
Yeah.
Sometimes playing Baldur as well.
Right. Incredible character too.
That was a lot of fun.
I mean, like Kratos and his relationship with his son, I think, is the heart of it. But the soul of it is the way that he interacts with the smaller cast of characters that resonate, man. They're just all so powerful.
He's a very. I really felt bad for him.
Yeah.
In that game, playing him, I was figuring out his story, and I asked, do we have to kill him? Spoiler alert.
So you were playing both Kratos and Baldur. So both sides of that fight.
Yeah,
right?
not in the cinematics. So if we needed somebody smaller than Kratos, then I would play the smaller guy, and then Chris J would play Kratos.
Okay.
And
Chris Judge.
Yeah, Chris Jai White.
Oh, okay, Chris Jai White. Not Chris Judge.
Not Chris Judge,
who did the voice who did an
right.
incredible job as the voice.
Chris Jai Alex, excuse me, not Chris Jai White.
Okay, so you're playing the new God of War, clearly as a fan of game. How do you feel when you sit down and you pop the game into your PlayStation 4 and you're sitting there? It saved your career. It put you on track here. It did a lot of things in your life. How does it feel to sit there and play that game?
It was the most surreal gaming experience I've ever had. Yeah. Because I'm getting really into it, and I'm playing it months after it came out. Yeah. And I finally have some time to sit down and play it. You know, when you have a family, it's hard, but I sit down and I start playing it, and on the one hand, I'm getting really into it, and on the other hand, I'm seeing times when, oh wait, that was me 2 years ago.
Wow.
Oh wait, I'm in the game. Hold on, and then I kind of like back out into the game, and then oh wait, now I'm playing Baldur. Now Baldur's okay, that's me. Now I'm also Kratos. Now and it was disorienting, difficult, and fun. Yes. An amazing game. Yeah, it's immediately immersive. The first frame of that game, you're just sucked in immediately. So it was a huge blessing working with that team, and I really learned how to do mocap from that game.
I would imagine, and you know,
Bruno's
Sony clearly gave that game and that team the time to get it right. Oh, yeah. So you must have been working for years.
2 years. It's about 2 years on that. Incredible. And I came in a little bit late too. Yeah.
And so now you've done work in film, and you have an appreciation for where the camera's got to go. You're working with, you must be imagining some kind of, you know, capturing this data and using it across media, like making it a movie character that also you can play.
It's really an interesting idea. Yeah. Because if you think about where previs is going right now, pre-visualization, I mean, you're basically building 3D models a lot of the time in previs, and then you shoot your film using the previs, and then you can still take those previs assets and make a game out of it now, and it can all kind of be plug and play. It's almost like an Adobe suite that just keeps on expanding into previs and game design and all this. I mean, you can kind of imagine the Adobe kind of catalog going like this at some point.
Well, I mean, you can imagine a future where you see some kind of real-time generated, Jackie Chan that looks exactly photoreal from when he was a young man, and then someone hands you the controller and you can play the sequence off of that scene.
And that sort of immortalizes actors in entertainment also, and you see it a lot with facial scanning, like with Death Stranding. It's like these are actors in a game for sure awesome. Now, and Last of Us is the same way. And that's really going to change the landscape. And I think that bridge between cinema and games is pretty much fully closed now. That's
crazy, right? Yeah. You could argue that Mortal Kombat was one of the first games to kind of sort of scratch at that.
Totally
right?
was.
So you're in Mortal Kombat 11. You can't tell us too much, but what's that experience like? Is it the same? Like, is it like a direct comparison to what you did with God of War? Same kind of vibe, same professionalism, or is it a different vibe?
Yeah, same professionalism, just a totally different culture. I mean, look at the difference between the two. God of War is very mythological and dramatic and heavy. Yeah. And then Mortal Kombat is like
technical.
It's like a punk rock band. You know what I mean? Or like it's like Big Trouble in Little China meets Freddy Krueger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that culture there is it just kind of spawns and it comes from a lot of it comes from Ed and from Carlos and these guys that really put their signature on everything.
So were they there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I got to learn how to do Raiden's in-game from Raiden himself.
Wow.
Carlos, yeah.
Amazing.
Carlos Pacina. So and it was amazing working with him.
So in a game like, I mean, you played a couple of characters on in God of War, more than 2, or
2,
yeah. And in a game like Mortal Kombat, are you doing a whole bunch of different characters?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you tell us any of them?
Yeah, Raiden, Cage. These are the end game.
Yeah.
So Raiden, Cage, Kano. A few more. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Collector.
Yeah, we can't.
I can't
get into the
entirely,
because they haven't revealed every single character that's going to be in there.
All of them, but,
So you started your career by mimicking a video game and making a movie segments from that, and now you're in arguably some of the biggest video games. Well, some of the biggest video games that are out on the market today. How does that correlate? How do you make sense of that in your mind? It must be so surreal.
It's a blessing.
Yeah.
It's just every day I just count my blessings in this industry. I thank God, I thank my family, and these people that put these amazing games together. They gave me a chance too, because really, like, I came in through the back door. Yeah. I didn't cross the threshold the right way.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about games, and I talk about this all the time with the students here at VFS, but also with my audience, is that if you bleed for this business, if you really love it, there's lots of really interesting ways, and the jobs are all over the map, right? Like you probably couldn't even conceive that there was a career for you as an artist building fighting sequences in a game.
And the amazing thing now, I mean, when you in the tech entertainment world, if you can take, when you can harness the tech and you take your skill, you can make a job. Yeah. You make a new job. I mean, that's how the game industry keeps on building, is that, like, you'll have layoffs, but then a lot of those folks will say, well, I spent all this time building this tool in Maya, I'm just going to sell that thing. And then boom, that becomes an economy. Yeah. And that's why the game industry outpaced Hollywood very quickly. Yes. And you're talking about the game industry is young, and Hollywood goes back before film. I mean, really, the model goes back to, theatrical stage plays. Totally. And the fact that now, like, games have already shot past it, I think it's because it's such an economy of scale. Yeah.
There's no limit on imagination in games, right? I mean, like what we do in movies, and the movies are incredible in lots of other ways, but it's trying to create an unrealistic situation and make it believable to us and make it real. With video games, we don't care if it's believable. We can be a Norse god beating up another Norse god and drop mountains on them and feel that power and believe it. Yeah, it's incredible.
As long as they put it in your hands like this. Yeah. I mean, this really bridges the gap between the player and the character more than cinema. Nice. You know what I mean? Yep. So it's like you can take way more liberties, sometimes in the wrong way. Yeah. Let's be honest. Yeah. But it's this enormous power. I think game developers are actually starting to wrestle with it. Like, how much power do we really want? Yeah. In this world. Yeah. And maybe we need to dial something back. Maybe we need to push it a little bit.
Sure. I mean, that's one of the great things about God of War, is that it give you lots of moments to think about it all. Yeah. And there was as a father too, it must be so surreal that on those levels to be a dad and recognize that Kratos is recognizing that he has to be a father too. It's not just all kill everything.
Yeah, and we would do some navigation mocap days where Jade Kwan would be the double for the boy. Yeah. And I would be interacting with this kid, and it didn't matter that it was a female playing a boy. It didn't matter. Like, you're in it, and it was really it was surreal. Yeah. And it's so enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, the emotion carried across all of that. And I told Corey when I interviewed him, like, I didn't expect a God of War game to make me well up. I did not expect to be, emotionally impacted like it did. Yeah. So what is next for you? Mortal Kombat comes out momentarily, and can you tell us?
Yeah, well, I can tell you a little bit. Yeah. So we, after doing all this, I went and just bought a motion capture system myself. Nice. And so my business partner Zach and I, we started a company called Super Alloy, and we are providing motion capture services with talent in-house.
Nice. Out of where?
Vegas.
You live in Las Vegas. Yeah. You shifted over there. Very cool.
We moved.
So people can send you bits that they need, and you capture the data and just send it to them.
That's right, and it's a mobile system, so we can actually go to their studio. We can go. If they can come to us, they can, Skype in. And that's what's amazing about this is that the Extends mocap suit, which is really good now. It's gotten a lot better. You can climb ropes with it. You can walk upstairs. It's fantastic data, and that you can just plug and play and get your mocap data with. You send us a shot list, we do it, we send it back.
That's awesome.
It's just a crazy. Like if I went back and told myself, 20 years ago I'd be doing this, I'd be like, get out of here, old man, bearded old man.
And so when you wait, well, you probably don't wait. You probably the phone's probably ringing off the hook. But do you also have time to build your own things if you want to? Are you still you still want to make Tekken videos?
But
if you want?
I think that the only way to really exist is to keep making content.
Yeah.
Because without content, you don't exist in this economy.
Yes.
And that's how I got every job.
Yeah.
Is by being surrounded by good people. I was blessed with having great directors work with me and help me create content too that I couldn't create on my own.
Yeah.
But it was always making content for free and putting it on YouTube and just releasing it for free.
Nice.
And that's how every job would come in.
That's awesome.
And so we just keep we keep that philosophy. Now we got a mocap system. We got Unreal. We can just make a game demo. We can make a CG demo. We can do anything now.
That's great.
Yeah.
You worked on Spider-Man as well last year.
For one day.
For one day.
One day.
That was my favorite game of last year.
Cool.
It was our game of the year, and it was between God of War and Spider-Man. How was the Spider-Man set for you?
It was a little bit different.
Did you get beat up a lot?
I did the Kingpin cinematic.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I believe so.
And
it's hard to remember sometimes. I watched it and I said, I think that's me. Sometimes I have to kind of reverse engineer and say, that looks like me.
So I had Sam Witwer on the show not too long ago, and he's in the new Days Gone video game, and it's surreal playing that game and seeing his face. Oh, yeah. Is that a dream for you as an actor? Do you want to one day have one of these games take not just your data and not your moves and what you can do, but also put you in the game? Or
I'm not much to look at, and I don't know how you're gonna mocap this anyway. Maybe when they can mocap a beard. I'm very happy performing and having someone else's. In my opinion, it's not about me. It's not about Eric. It's about the game and the experience. Anything that we can do to make that experience, top notch, we'll do that.
That's awesome. Yeah. You're very modest, and it's fantastic to meet you.
Likewise.
You guys can check out all of Eric's work in, modern masterpieces like God of War and Spider-Man, and very soon Mortal Kombat 11, and in a Bollywood movie. Do you know what the Bollywood movie is going to be called?
Maad ko da nahi hota. It's called Man Who Feels No Pain.
Man Who Feels No Pain. I love the Indian phrase.
I heard it constantly.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right. That's going to do it for us today, guys. We had two fantastic guests. We are back tomorrow with another fantastic guest. Christopher, how do you pronounce his last name? Makarowitz. Michael Makarowitz, who is the lead animator on Toy Story 4. I've never met him, but tomorrow we will meet him together on EP Live. So please come down for that and watch the show in person. We're at 390 West Hastings in Vancouver, or you can watch it right here on the stream. Thank you so much for watching today, everybody. Play forever.
Thanks, bye.